Hi, this is Steve Siebold from the Bone Allen Mansion, and I'm here with Jun Delacruz, one of the top leaders in World Financial Group. I've known Jun for many years. He's one of the top leaders, one of the best guys out there. And Jun, welcome to the mansion.
I'm glad to be here, Steve.
Hey, thanks for coming.
Of course, I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, so if you tell the group here about your experience in WFG, kind of your background and where you're from, and a little bit about yourself.
Got it. I started the company back in 1995. Grew up in Southern California. And grew up in my family business with real estate with my dad. And my whole premise was I thought I was going to stay there in that industry for my entire life. And when the market turned in 94, 93, I told my dad, said, as much as I love real estate, I think it's time for me to look for something else. And I started looking for different opportunities, whether it was going back to college or different industries. And my godfather actually reached out to me and said, hey, I know you're doing pretty good in real estate. How would you like to do better? I go, of course. I go, but aren't you in the insurance industry? And he goes, yeah, I'm in the insurance industry. I said, well, I don't want to sell insurance. And he took me out and invited me to an opportunity, saw the presentation, and just something clicked that night. And it wasn't really the presentation, it was more the people that I met. And when I met the people, shook their hands, I got to meet them, I actually took the time out to find out more about the opportunity. And over the next 2-3 days, I got field trained. As much as I didn't know about the industry, I got field trained, saw the products and services, saw how it worked. And all of a sudden one day, guess what? I decided to join as I joined the business. Coming into the business was kind of neat because when he brought me into the business, I didn't know what to expect. Although I got field trained right away, I took 1 day at a time, 1 week at a time, 1 month at a time, and lo and behold, my first year, 2 years in the business was probably the most incredible experience of my life up until that point. And I saw a greater future. I saw a chance to go out there and not just make money for myself, but go out there and make a difference in people's lives. So instead of it being a part-time thing for me or something on the side, it ended up becoming a career I always dreamed of. Never thought it was going to be in insurance, especially when I found out that it wasn't insurance. It's something I told myself I would never, ever do because my dad sold insurance growing up. And I saw how boring it was. I saw what he talked about. So I said, I'll never do that for myself. And here I find myself in insurance, but in a different, I guess you'd say, division of insurance. And so it's made a big difference. And in the last 23 years, it's been a dream come true at many different levels. At a personal level, because it's all about self-improvement. That's what our business is really about. I've been able to do things for my family, travel, live in a dream house, do all the things we wanted to go do on a personal level. And then when it comes to business and helping people, our reach has just grown. It's become such an incredible business where instead of it just being in Southern California, my business stems across the United States and into Canada as well too.
Okay. So what attracted you to WFG the most out of all the different things that you mentioned?
The people. The people.
What was it about the people?
Just genuine. You know, I grew up, my dad always told me, look at someone in the eye and shake their hand. And from that initial handshake and the look in the eye, you can tell the difference between a person with character versus one that doesn't have one. And until I got into the business, I never understood what that meant. Maybe because when I was in real estate or other industries, I kind of felt I met a lot of phony people, so I can read them right away. But the initial handshakes that I would get from people, and then of course the eye contact, and the follow up with conversations, you found out that there's actually real people out there that have good values when it comes to God fearing people, when it comes to family values, and you can have a business. So for me, Steve, it was kind of neat because the world I grew up prior to WFG, if you had a great faith, your family's kind of messed up, or maybe your business is messed up, okay? Or if you had a great business, your family's messed up, or you didn't have much religion. Or if you were a person all about family, you probably didn't make a lot of money, right? And maybe you did go to church, so maybe you have 1 or 2 out of the 3, but not 3 out of the 3. And when I came to WFG, I actually met people that were God-fearing, also had a great family, and then also had an incredible business. So I'm like, wow, what a chance to have the best of both worlds. That's probably the best part about it.
So what rank are you now in the company, Jun?
Executive Vice Chairman.
Okay.
Which means I probably rank somewhere in the top 50 to 75 in the company right now.
Okay. And how long did it take you to become successful? Say $75,000 a year.
I'd say that was my first year. First year in the business.
First year?
First 12 months.
23 years ago, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, it was. And I was only 23 years old when it happened too as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And what do you think the secret of your success has been?
I learned the business right away through field training. That was probably the biggest difference. I met a lot of people that said they were in the company or came across the company, and I would ask them, what did you do or what did you not do? And 99% of them didn't ever go in the field. So I made sure I said, okay, let me go in the field because that's what they tell you to do. And I found that people that do go field training, that's the biggest difference between the doers versus the non-doers. And so when I went in the field, I fell in love with it right away. I fell in love with being able to help families, go into people's homes, realize where they were deficient in their finances and how we had offered solutions. And right away, I got hooked. I got hooked literally from day one. And when they were telling me to do 2-3 appointments a week, I was doing 2-3 appointments a day. That's what I was doing. So I think I got my modern day Alexander ring, which is a $100,000 ring at the time, in a matter of months, not even the first year.
Wow. Okay. And why did you select WFG? There are other companies that market financial services out there, as you know. Why WFG?
Truth. I'm a finance major coming out of Cal State Fullerton, and I piloted at Charles Schwab, and then I tried to go to Morgan Stanley, and I tried to go to Merrill Lynch, and all those companies seemed to go out there and find the indifference of why I wasn't suited for them. Just the typical student, and I had a big dream of going to become a financial advisor. And so each of those companies that piloted a program for me, I didn't last more than 2 or 3 days. And so as much as I love the industry, I'm like, man, I got to find a company that's going to go, suit my needs. And so I even went to companies like Farmers Insurance and State Farm, and I didn't like the model because I saw where the perpetuation would be in 5, 10, 15 years. I was looking for a progressive opportunity in the industry. And so when I'm at WFG, I'm like, wow, I can see the progressive nature of this whole business where you don't have a ceiling of an opportunity where you have to go out there and fight through managers and fight through CEOs, et cetera, et cetera. You controlled your own destiny. So that probably was the biggest difference as to why I joined the business in WFG. When I laid out the Ben Franklin T and said, this works, versus this, and this doesn't work, where's my short-term goals and my long-term goals, it just made a lot of sense. Probably the biggest thing though, Steve, was the freedom. I control my time where I can go out there, and if I wanted to make $100,000, I could. If I want to make $500,000, I could do as well. There was no limitation. Most other companies have certain limitations by income and levels and years, where here you didn't have to do that.
Okay. And you said you're a finance major. Does someone have to be a finance major to be successful in this?
Not at all. In fact, I think finance major held me back. As much as I was a finance major, I was also a marketing major. That's where I actually transcended to. And I think the one class that separated me from everybody else was human sexual behavior, because I started to understand about human nature. I met a lot of people from the industry that knew products like the back of their hand 10 times more than I do, but they don't understand how to get into people's houses. They don't understand the human nature of how to talk with people, not at them. And that was probably the biggest separation of why I like the business too, is because I joined the business again because of the people, and the way people treated others with or without money made the biggest difference for me. I always remember the time when I was a kid and a big firm came into our house and talked to my mom and dad. And my dad's one of those kind of humble guys where he was multimillionaire at the time, but he looked like he wasn't, and when they came in, they talked at my dad, and I said, man, I would never want someone to walk into my house and do that to me. So I made sure when I got to the industry myself, I'm not going to be that type of person. I'm going to go out there and talk with someone and help someone and bridge the gap versus go out there and, put the thumb in the forehead and tell you, hey, you're poor, or hey, you're broke, and I'm your only option. So that was probably the biggest difference to what I liked about this business versus others.
Okay. Let's talk about some of the criticisms that have been levied at WFG, especially online, as you know. Some people say, well, it's a scam.
Yeah.
How do you respond to someone who says that?
Here's the truth, Steve. I honestly believe people just don't spend the time to find out really what the opportunity is about. I mean, like anything else, I think we live in a world today where everybody judges each other, whether it's just meeting someone in person or meeting an athlete or any type of like actor or actress or any type of high profile person. But if you take the time out to get to find out, you're going to take some of those words back. And I have a feeling that most of the people that use the word scam, if you want to use it, or whatever other terminology they use, they just really haven't taken the time out to find out more about the opportunity. Or if you ask me, it's the difference between being informed versus uninformed. They're just uninformed. That's what it is. And if a person's not going to take the time out to get educated about it, then I have to think next person, because you can't serve everybody.
Sure. Okay. Now, WFG is being an MLM model, multi-level marketing or network marketing model. Some people say, well, this is a pyramid scheme.
Right.
How do you respond to that?
Well, the funny part is I do say, well, the pyramid, we're Transamerica, so they are a pyramid. So I always start with a little joke there. But I tell people, I said, get educated, get informed. I think the world we live in today is different from 20 years ago. 20 years ago, obviously, we had a lot of models such as Amway and many others that were multi-level, and they fronted that way. But a lot of these companies today have proven themselves that they are real opportunities. Not all of them, but they are. The Federal Trade Commission goes out there and regulates that. More importantly, if you look at our industry with WFG, we're a licensed industry. We're an industry. It's financial services. So I always tell people, get the facts straight to find out the difference. Multi-level is a marketing it's a marketing approach. That's really what it is. And more importantly, when you think about whether it's a scam or it's a pyramid, pyramids are illegal. And if you're illegal, how can you go out there and run a business, first of all? Why do you need a license, thereafter too as well? So I think the reality is just people need to go out there and take the time out to get informed. I don't seem to have that issue. I found out one thing, Steve, is if you work in middle America or upper middle America, you don't seem to have that question come out very much. If you start to work in lower income areas, you're going to have that come out no matter where you go. It's no different than someone saying being a doctor is a scam or being an athlete's a scam or anything else. Because everywhere you go out there, it's up to you what you want to feed in terms of your mindset or your ego. If you want to Google anybody, including yourself or myself, there's going to be people that love us and not love us too as well. But I think the ones that don't, hey, just don't take the time to find out what the truth is about the opportunity. Because truth, I'll tell you the truth, I was like that too as well. I came up, I had a lot of friends that would always use the word scam really loosely, and they use the word pyramid really loosely. And I went to look at, I'd say, 7 different network marketing multi-level companies before I joined WFG, and I got educated. And I started to realize, wait, corporate America is a pyramid, right? Corporate America is the way it's structured, is the biggest pyramid out there. I also got educated with a guy that worked for the government, told me, have you ever taken a dollar bill out, like a $1 bill? I'm like, yeah. Why? He goes, what's on the back? A pyramid. I'm like, really? So I looked at it, there's actually a pyramid. Why? Because that's what democracy is, where the structure of one person controls what is out there. So I always tell people, just get educated. I think the uneducated comments out there are scams or pyramids, but the educated ones don't go out there and say that.
Okay, what about the people that say they come to a meeting or a training session, a WFG training session, and they say, well, they have chants and they have these sayings, and sometimes they wear the same shirts and the same clothes. So and then they go online and they say, well, the WFG is a cult.
Oh, okay. Well, let's go back to this. First of all, that person's probably never been to a sporting event, right? Because if you've gone to a sporting event, I don't care if you're in Georgia or you're in California or any state out there, there's going to be pride in whatever they do. And that's whether it's religious, whether it's sports, whether it's schools, we all see that. You can go to academic decathlon, you see your chants going on wherever you go. So it's a culture. That's really what it is. And if you're not into a team-oriented sport or a team-oriented business, or you never grew up around that, you won't understand it. But it's kind of funny because for every person that doesn't like the opportunity, when they say it's a cult or it's a chant or this and that, there's always 2 or 3 that do. That's the difference, because there's a difference between having an individual type of sport, let's say like tennis or golf, versus a team sport like baseball or football or basketball. And so the difference is very simple, is that, one's a team over me concept versus a me over me concept. And so that's where, it's hit and miss. You're right, because I can invite 3 friends. I could think about 3 specific friends of mine that came in and they said exactly that. One said, I love it, right? This is exactly for me. The other best friend of his says, I hate this. This is a cult scam. The other person says, I would never get involved in this kind of thing, right? And it's just one of those kind of things where it's a tale of 2 stories or a tale of two people, where one will love it, one will not. So bottom line, you just have to go through the numbers. You know this, Steve. I'm sure like anything else, people read your book or books that you've had. Some will love it, some won't. And so I think the great part about the world we live in today is we have choices out there. And unfortunately for a lot of people, their ignorance has gotten the best of them. And it's an opportunity that's worth seeing, worth taking the time out to find out. Because the truth is, the reason why I think a lot of people go out there and call it a cult or a scam or a pyramid is because they were trained that way by their parents. I think a lot of people that are raised by employees, right? They have that employee mentality. They trickle that down to their kids. So the kids come out there talking about the same kind of language their parents did. The funny part about that is most kids don't want to be like their parents, right? Yet if they talk like them and act like them, they're going to become their parents whether they like it or not. And so I was part of that too as well. I have the kind of parents where a little bit, 2 different households. My mom was very educated, and being Filipino, you had to either be a nurse, a doctor, an accountant, an architect, or an engineer. And if you're not one of those 5, you're basically not even a human being. That's how my family was on my mom's side. Well, guess what? My mom married my dad. You know what my dad was? A farmer who barely got out there and finished college. I'm not even sure if it's legal or not, but he finished college. But when they got married, it was always a rich dad, poor dad kind of mentality in my household. My mom was all about education, and my dad was all about hard work. And I realized something by the time I got to WFG, very specifically, is that lesson I learned growing up, I found that to be happening in other households as well. People that grew up in a very educated household where you have only engineers and doctors and nurses and stuff like that, anything that's not like that is a scam to them, right? Because that's not a traditional world to them. Versus a person that is from the free world, if you want to call it, like a farmer or someone that goes out there and works hard. People that work hard, they realize that a company like WFG is a place where you can work very hard. Whether you're educated or not, you can become very successful here. So I saw that's the biggest difference here. So that what I found, Steve, is people that are willing to work hard and pay their dues and understand what an 80-hour week is, what it takes to go out there and work 20 hours a day, they will appreciate a WFG opportunity platform versus a company or a job where you go out there and work for 8 hours a day or 12 hours a day, and you want to make more money, but you can't because you're salaried or you're paid by hour.
Okay. Now, you guys have a lot of criticism. You've gotten a lot of criticism for the FFIUL, the Index Universal Life Policy. How do you respond to people that say, especially online, who say that it's not a good product because as you age, it's going to cost you, the cost of insurance goes so high that you can't really afford it. How do you respond to those critics?
Okay, well, like anything else, every product seems to evolve. And if you understand the foundation of life insurance, it started from term insurance. And that's been out there for almost 100 years, I think now. But it's evolved to whole life and to universal life and then to a UL product and then to an IUL product. And the FFIUL is a cutting edge product based on the era we live today, but you're going to have haters. You know that. If you're going to go out there and be revolutionary by nature, you're going to be controversial by nature. And WFG has always been a cutting edge type of company with a cutting edge type of product. And that's what FFIUL is. Is it a more costly product? Absolutely. Because there's living benefits attached to them as well.
Is it something you own personally?
Oh, yeah, most definitely.
Okay,
oh, yeah,
so you believe in it.
Oh, definitely. And I've evolved with it too as well. And I think if you look at it, when you look at our target market, which is middle America, you have to ask yourself, okay, what products can serve middle America the best? And we've been through that term era. We've been through that whole life era. We've saw what it's done good and saw what it's done bad. And these products have been created, Steve, have been created as a answer, a solution to the products that are out there over the last 10, 20, 30 years. So the FFIUL is the best of the best of what they have today. And it's going to continue to evolve. I'm sure in 5 or 10 years when we talk again, it's going to evolve again to another product. But that's just how it is. I always relate to it just like an iPhone. You know, an iPhone, compared to iPhone, I guess it was 3G, was the first one that went to 4 and a 5. We're now at the 8 or 10 now today. It's going to get better over time. And it's going to be controversial because most people don't need that because it's not a needs product. It's a want product. So that means when I say that, a term is a need product. That means it's your entry-level type of insurance. But that's not the market we're serving anymore. That was the A.L. Williams era, the Primerica era, where you deal with the lower income area. We're now in the upper middle America income, where 50,000, 100,000, 150. They don't want to drive that. They don't want to have that term policy. It's kind of like a car. You know, you had that lower income car. I'm not sure, a Sentra or Kia or whatever, entry level. When you're making 30, 40,000, that's relative. But when you start to make 50, 100, 200,000, they don't want that car anymore, do they? They want to upgrade. Well, FFIUL is an upgrade to the basic insurance policies out there. So the ones that usually take shots at FFIUL are the ones that are pricing around that market of term insurance.
How about the people that say that WFG promotes FFIUL because it's a Transamerica product? And obviously you guys are connected with Transamerica. Mm-hmm. What do you say to those people?
Okay, well, I'll tell you this. My organization is probably split down the middle. We do write quite a bit of Transamerica. I wouldn't say it's even 50%, though. I'd say 40, 45% of my business is Transamerica. But that's what makes WFG so unique for the informed. We're a broker dealer. We're a third-party company third-party broker that allows for us to go out there and write business with different companies such as Nationwide or Pacific Life or Prudential and so Voya and other companies as well too. So we are that Walmart of financial services. We're the Amazon of financial services. So we're not a one-trick pony. And so people that say that we're only Transamerica, they're uninformed again.
Okay. And for the people that say that say, well, I want to be in the insurance industry. Mm-hmm. And if I go to WFG, if I sign in with WFG, then I'm going to make 25, 35% initially in terms of my commissions. But if I go to a traditional company, I might make 75 or 85% commissions.
Right.
What do you say to the people that say, why would I go to WFG when I can make 3 times the money initially at least?
Good.
Why would they go there?
Okay, so if you look at that, that's a 2-3-part question. First of all, I don't think anybody wakes up to want to go to the life insurance industry, right? But it's an attractive industry that people can go out there and start part-time. That's really the way you want to start it. And if you want to be a career agent, you're right, we're not the place to go if you just want to sell life insurance. But here's the reality. Those career agents start with a high contract, but they don't last in the industry very long. And there's a reason why. They're cold calling. They're basically they're stuck with a phone book, or they're stuck, knocking on doors, or whatever the case is. And so they start with a higher contract, but over time there's no progression again. Okay? With WFG, you're right, but we have a part-time opportunity where you attract people part-time, where you could stay at your job still. And that's the best part about it. So there's no job risk. There's no career risk at hand, where you have to go out there and jump in full-time like the rest of the industry. And so because of that, you can come into WFG part-time while you're still a nurse or a doctor or whatever you're doing, build a part-time income, build a part-time business, and then from there, over time, maybe match your income in a few months or even a year or so, or get to a point where you now have a double career, your full-time career and then your WFG business on the side. And that's where you start to see people go out there and say, hey, listen, I love what I do as a teacher, let's say, but I don't make the income. But if I can go to WFG, I can work part-time and supplement my income. And so they work with WFG, they double their income, and they don't have to quit their job. But if you're with the industry, for you to go out there and become part of the industry, you have to quit your job and go there full-time. And so it's sink or swim there. So if you look at the turnover, the industry has a higher turnover than we do, because if you look at it, you have to go sink or swim there. Versus here, it's part-time. And so because of the part-time opportunity, you understand that you will start at a lower compensation, but the progressiveness will allow you to get higher and higher, And if you look at the system that we have inside WFG, look at the longevity of people's careers and to be able to build, you're not a career agent over here. You actually build a business where you can override and build giant teams. So you can be a career agent just like the industry here, but then the better part about here is not just being a career agent, you can actually build a team, which in essence will build a business for you long term.
How about people that attend a WFG meeting, June, and they say, "Wow, that was a hard sell." I mean, they were really pushing me to sign this AMA or an associate agreement to sign up for $100. They're really pushing me, kind of putting the hard sell on me, and they have kind of a negative taste in their mouth about that. How do you respond to that?
You know what? First of all, it doesn't happen to my organization very much, and if it does, I'm one of those that get on their case, because I said, you don't need to go do that. We don't need recruits. WFG is already a recruiting machine, but that's a personality thing. It's like anything else. You have two friends, a tale of two friends. One's pushy, one's not, and so there's isolated cases. I'm sure people out there that'll go out there and be a little bit pushy, like anything else, and some people don't like it. Whereas some people actually like being pushed, because if they're not pushed, they wouldn't be where they're at. So I think that's again an opinion for a lot of people. And for what it's worth, I think, as big as the opportunities in WFG, you're going to have the good, the bad, and everybody in between. But I don't see that happen very often. You get it? So if you look at the size of our company and the size of our opportunity, I think in my organization, I probably had maybe one complaint like that in 23 years. When it came to being someone in my organization that was very pushy, because I tell everybody the opportunity is great already. You don't need to go out there and be a hard sell, because opportunity sells itself.
How about in terms of the turnover rate in WFG? As you know, roughly 80% of the people that sign an AMA, that sign up in the business, leave within the first 12 months. Why do so many people leave such a great opportunity?
Okay, that's a great question. I mean, when you talk about that's something we have a hard time controlling in wherever we go. But when it comes to WFG, it's because there's just, the way we live in today, there's so much opportunity out there wherever you go. Not only that, people don't work as hard as they're supposed to. That they're not focused. We're supposed to go out there and put your head down and go to work. My take right now is this. We grew up in a society where you would give one instruction, okay? And someone would work very hard to get it done. Let's say you say, go out there and recruit and do this presentation, go see 100 people. And someone would actually do that. But in today's world, Steve, it's a little bit different. Man, you give someone one instruction, 5 minutes later, they're wondering why, or show me a better way, or show me a faster way. So people are always looking for a faster way to do things, or a shortcut. Just like diets, as well as I do, there's 10,000 diets out there a day, and there's not one better than the other per se. It's just the one you decide to own for yourself. That's the same thing with WFG. That's why the relationship is the most important part of WFG. If you came into business with me and you just feel good about it, we're going to go out there and build a relationship. And relationship means spending time with each other, both in the field, right, in the office. And if you feel good about a person both ways, you're going to spend a lot more time with them. That's just how it is. And so that's where we're in the team building business. That's why our culture is so different from the traditional industry or anywhere else, because in the traditional industry, you only spend 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 with them. Here, you're with them, during the day, at nighttime, on weekends. We travel together. And that's a choice you make when you come into the business. So to me, go back to your initial question, it's going to be no different than someone that goes to nursing. I just read a statistic from a school I went to, it was Cal State Fullerton, that 93% of all the kids coming in do not graduate with the same degree that they came in with. They also said 67% of all kids that graduate don't even end up in a job in the same line of work. So it's just attrition, natural attrition. And so our attrition numbers are probably 80%, maybe even more or less, depending on the teams you're on. But I think if you look at it, we have such a broad recruiting machine, if you want to call it, or we have one-on-ones, or we have group presentations, we have offices that are constantly bringing people in. Our turnover, although people think that's a high turnover, I look at our industry like Merrill Lynch or Schwab or anywhere else, there's a higher turnover over there because their success rate over there is less than 2%. So we actually are pretty good compared to the industry when it comes to that number.
Okay. Let's turn to the person who's watching this, June, who's brand new. Maybe they just went to a BPM or someone showed them WFG. They're all excited about it. You've been doing this almost 24 years, long time. What's the best advice you could give someone who's brand new and they can't decide whether they should go forward or not?
Well, like anything else, you got to take the time out to see the opportunity for itself. Like I said earlier, get field trained. That's the difference. Find a personal mentor that's going to take you under their wing and teach you and show you the ropes. That's what it is. Because if you are just one of the many people in the office or the crowd, you're right. Your chance of survival is not going to be very good. And so you got to go out there and attach yourself to a mentor, earn their stripes, earn their rights to go out there and separate yourself from everybody else. And your chances will succeed. I mean, your chance for success is going to be much higher that way. And that's one of the differences when I came into this business. Unlike the other multi-level or network marketing companies I went into, I used to sit in the back of the room and just watch. I used to sit in the back and just look and never get involved. Here it was different. I actually sat in the front. I actually asked questions. I actually came early and stayed late. I got to know the people behind the career themselves. I got to know the spouses. I got to know the kids and realize these people are good people. And when I started to realize that they're not just good people in business, but outside the business as well, they became people I wanted to be like. Because in our business, we're a hero-making machine. And so it's very easy to duplicate someone that you see in front of you. And so we see that in our leadership. If you look at WFG leadership from the top down, people that are very successful in the business is one thing, but to see them even more successful outside was very humbling too as well. So that's where I knew I was going to go out there and plant my feet in this company and said, you know what, one day my dream and goal is to become like them. And here we are 20 plus years later. I think I've become one of those leaders that people aspire to be like.
What's the biggest obstacle you faced in building the business, Jun?
Human nature. Human nature. People are fickle, lack of confidence, if you ask me. And like I was saying earlier, they're just not focused to be able to put their head down and go to work for a very long time. You know, they say today we're in the information age. And what I mean by the information age, Steve, is this, kind of like what I just said a few minutes ago. You go out there, and when I was growing up, my dad would tell me, son, do this. And I would take that one lesson and run with it. And I wouldn't stop till I get it done, whether it was a day, a week, or a month. Okay? Today, you ask me, Jun, what do I got to do? And I'll say, well, do this. And you say, okay. And you walk out and say, okay, I'll do what Jun tells me. But then an hour later, you Google it. Or you find it, you're looking for a faster way to get it done. Or you talk to another leader that's not as successful, and you're trying to find shortcuts. That's what's happening today. You don't find people that are really willing to put their head down and grind it out. And that's why we have this information age right now where people are spending more time being thinkers and not doers. That's really what it is. They're finding shortcuts. They're finding ways around it. So instead of becoming as successful as they want to become or they could become, they're not, because they're always looking for shortcuts. That's what it is. So I always tell people the best way to avoid shortcuts is do it right the first time. And the best way to do that is to be mentored. Stay close to the people on top. I mean, go figure. The way the company compensation works very simply. If I bring you into the business, Steve, if you become successful, the more successful I become, right? Or would I steer you wrong? So obviously I want to make sure you go out there and do the right thing. But even if I tell you what to go do, the hardest part is finding someone that's coachable. Coachable meaning you ask me what to do, I tell you, and you do it. Make sense?
Right.
99% of the people wait to be told to do something. And if you have to wait for me to tell you, then guess what? It's an indirect comment that's for the masses. But if you go out there and say, hey, Jun, what do I got to do to get to the next level? And you do it. Then you ask me again, what do I got to do next to that level? And you do it. That becomes a great player-coach relationship. That's kind of like what Michael Jordan had with Phil Jackson or Kobe Bryant. Those are very rare, but that's what it takes to make it in this business, if you ask me. And that's a quick decision. It doesn't. You don't have to be anybody special. You don't have to be educated. You don't have to be. You don't have to be any culture. You just got to be willing to be coachable. Ask the right questions to the right people, and whatever they tell you to do, you do. That's why if you look at our culture of our business, WFG is not a one-trick pony where you have one culture or one nationality or one type of person making it. You have people making it from all walks of life. The diversity is there because of the fact that coachability doesn't come from a nationality. It comes from a culture of how people are raised, right? And so you could take people that are educated, but if they're not coachable, they're not going to make it. Or you could take people that are not educated, but they're very coachable, they have a big chance of making it. So that's what it comes down to me, if you ask me, is the ability to be coached, mentored, and the ability to listen once and be instructed. Because when I came into the business, very, very simple. I went to a big meeting. There was probably 200 people in a meeting. At the end, I walked up to the speaker, the keynote speaker, and said, hey, what would it take for me to work with you? And he asked me who I was. Then I told him where my upline tree was. He goes, oh, you're so far down the rank and file. There's no way I can work with you. I said, well, there must be a way. He goes, okay, if you go out there and do this, let me know, call me up, and I'll tell you what's next. Within 6 days, I did just that. And I actually flew to his office. And when I flew to his office, I waited for 3 hours for his instruction, right? Because he had a meeting going on. At the end of the night, he goes, hey, what are you doing there? I said, well, you told me when I get to this, call you up. Not only did I call you up, I wanted to fly for to let you know and shake your hand that I did it. He goes, wonderful, congratulations. I go, so what's next? He goes, I want you to do this. And I was scratching my head, Steve, going, he could have told me that over the phone, right? But he didn't. So he goes, by the way, where are you staying tonight? I said, well, I'm going to fly home tomorrow morning. I'll just stay at a hotel or motel by the airport. He goes, you know what? Why don't you come over to my house, stay at my house, have an extra bed. So I went to his house that night. It was like 1 a.m. We stayed up till 4 a.m. And that night forged a friendship and relationship that I will never, ever forget in my life. He took me back to the airport at 7:30 that morning. I flew home. I said, I'm planting my feet here. It was a relationship that was built. And ever since then, for the next 9 years, whatever he told me to do, I did. That's what it was. And that's what a coach-player relationship is the ability to, ask again. He tells me, I execute, and I come back and say, I did it. What's next? That's it. That was the difference.